Bryan, hello. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
Oh, muchas gracias. Thank you to be here. Super grateful to be here. It's so
Please.
nice. It's nice that my work gets recognition from gringas like yourself. So, yeah.
Well, as a temporary resident of Mexico, I feel like I
No,
understand.
I mean, if you can handle like the salsa and are okay with accordion music playing past 2 a.m. in the morning, you're an honorary citizen. So.
Oh, can I ever? I mean, I would far rather have those kinds of sounds than the crackheads breaking things in my alley that I used to deal with every night in Vancouver.
Oh man, those Canadian crackheads are different too. They're a little bit because they're like polite about it. Like, oh, sorry, didn't mean. Did I bother you? And they're just giving you, and they're just cracked out, but they're so polite. It's honestly, Canadian drug addicts are my favorite. They're the best because they don't do anything. They steal stuff. Like, you're done with this, right? And then they take it.
It's true, actually.
They want is like drug addicts, like my brother. They just take the stuff that you want, like your car or your kid. So it's one of those things. But like Canadian drug addicts are my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, they don't do all that much. They would always be sleeping in like the doorway of my apartment. So you'd open the door to try to leave, and there'd be somebody with their whole like bed situation set up there. So it was, sometimes inconvenient, but they never actually did anything scary to me. So sometimes they would steal my bike and things like that, but I didn't really ride it, so whatever.
Yeah, at that point, it's just more of just, making sure that they're taking care of the bike,
Taking care of my tires. So I would love it if you could tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, how you came to America, legally, illegally, etc. Are we going to deport you? I'm American and Canadian, also, for the record. I have dual citizenship, so I can say we in a variety of contexts, and a resident of Mexico. So.
Oh my God. Okay. And then, because in Mexico, you're an honorary, so you just say you're just a citizen of North America. You know? Bad Bunny said we're all one country now, so I like it. It's very
perfect. Good. I should get rid of. I just need one big passport.
Yeah, that's it. We should just cross freely. The NAFTA place. My parents they crossed over the border illegally in 1978, and they went into El Paso, Texas. But I want everyone to know, I know this is scary. My mom's a Trump supporter now. So I want you guys to know, for people on the right that are very anti-immigration, I'm like, guys, if you just import the Latinos that Mexicans don't want, they'll turn Republican. So I know you guys are like, oh, Venezuelans and everything. That's turning more Mexicans Republican. And I think in the last election, now you're finally seeing people on the left being like, oh, maybe we don't want all Hispanic immigrants. Let's get them from Somalia, worse places. Because they eventually realize the Catholic guilt, and then they start making money in the U.S. and then they start turning Republican. So I think that's kind of a full circle moment. But my parents crossed from Juarez, which is a beautiful place, Juarez in Chihuahua, Mexico. If you guys don't know where Juarez is, it was actually featured in a really cute documentary called Cartel Wars. So
cute.
Part 3s. They've made 3 parts so far. But it's really nice. It was featured in the movie Sicario beautifully. It's a great place to be a decapitated body. But it's really nice, and I like it. And I go back to Juarez every time I need drugs. So it's really nice. And my parents crossed over, and they crossed over in a very chill way. Back then, it wasn't ID scanners or face scanners, none of that. It was just simply you drive a truck up to the border, you learn how to pronounce the word American without any accent, right? And that's it. They used to let you in the country like that.
Wow.
And that's how my parents crossed the border. Of course, my mom was also in a refrigerator box in the back of the truck, but that's a different story, So they crossed over, and then they had kids here. So real anchor baby stuff, great things. My dad used to use my brother's birth certificate to freely travel across the country. So he gave himself the same name. So my brother was born here. My dad gave him the same name he has. And then actually doctored the birth certificate. So when people would pull him over and stuff, he was like, I'm a citizen here. I just don't have my ID. And then he
I
used
love
the
it.
birth certificate. So it's really cool stuff. And I know like a lot of Republicans and stuff, you guys are gonna get mad hearing that, but trust me, it's cool. Okay. It is cool. Like think of like Italian and Irish settlers when they got here. They used to bootleg, they used to commit illegal crimes and stuff too, in order to like level up, you know, and those make great stories. So these are the stories that are going to be told in 10 years that you're going to like, oh, that's cool now.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I love illegal stuff. Obviously, I live in Mexico, so I love illegal things. And so it's hard for me to relate. I voted for Trump. I'm a Trump supporter, but
Nice.
I also it's hard for
So
me.
did my mom. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so we have a lot in common, obviously.
Yeah.
I can say like 10 words in Spanish. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Una bolsita, por favor.
Exactamente.
But like it's hard for me to relate to the deportation fandom that Republicans have, because I understand it on a practical level 100%. It makes sense. Yeah. Obviously, borders exist for a reason. You know, 100%. This is how countries work. This is how most countries work. It's, you know, it's deportation is much, much worse in many other countries. But on an emotional level, I don't feel it. Like I don't feel passionate about it because I love Mexicans and I love illegal things. So the whole thing I kind of enjoy.
It's a rebel spirit. It's a rebel spirit, you know, and I get it. Like, again, I'm like, regulate it. If someone's here and they're not doing it, but if you're smart and you like doctor documentation and you keep your head down and you're doing it, that's just cool. Like you're a cooler person than the guy's like, well, I filed my paperwork and sat in line and did it, you know, like that. Well, that guy, but
Lame.
The way I feel is that like, it's still a cool origin story and every culture has that. And again, my mom's a Trump supporter. She wants to kick out, you know, my 9 cousins that live with her, who are illegal. So that's why she voted for Trump. Like you guys have to understand, like, it's not self-hating. And that's the one thing I want to tell, like, this is why, like, I make fun of white liberals more than I do conservatives. Because to me, conservatives they get it from all angles. They get it from themselves. They get it from every angle. And to me, you're worse off if you claim that you want to save people and help them. But when it comes to your own wallet and your own neighborhoods, you like vote against like affordable housing if it's going to be right up next to your multi-million-dollar mansion, right? So to me, it's like I'm more of the sense of like I'll make fun of like the fake white liberals more because they don't get it as much. So I like to see what comedy is out there, and I'm like, the comedy that's out there is making fun of racist conservative Republicans, which a lot of time is just hyperbole. Like it's like they just lump it all into one, right? Like when they talk about Republicans, they're not talking about my undocumented mom that voted for Trump, right? They're talking about like, you know, Pete Hegseth or like those kind of white guys. They're talking about the Black Rifle coffee dads. Like that's who they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So
or like Matt Walsh.
Yeah, Matt Walsh, for example, right? Like just like stick up his ass, just like, I like
you guys and your weed.
Yeah. Matt Walsh is like, he's like, I like American Mexican food versus real Mexican food. I'm like, dude, just say you can't handle spice, bro. Okay. Just say you have to drink milk when you chew cinnamon gum. But what I'm saying is, so to me, it's like with my comedy, especially living in big like left-wing cities like New York City and Los Angeles. I lived in both cities for a long time. I see it way more. And that to me is much more prevalent. So in my comedy, I like to really just go after that angle because it's an angle that's not really hit hardly ever. And to me, it's like there's just much more there, you know? I grew up in Texas, so I have an affinity for like the good old boys and the cowboy stuff. So I get the Americana aspect of it. But in the left-wing cities, it's like they say every culture is the same and everything. And then when they live around it, they immediately gentrify it to get rid of all of the culture, you know? So it's a beautiful thing, the American experiment. It keeps evolving. And the hypocrisy is threefold in blue cities from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I mean, I'm sure you saw that video recently of the angry yoga Karens in Minneapolis, like like harassing these poor receptionists at their bougie yoga studio because they wanted to protect their neighbors and like all that's happening in our community. In my head, I was like, you guys don't have any fucking Mexican friends. Give me a break. You probably have a
No.
Mexican gardener. Like, what do your neighbor? Like, I really don't believe that you have any Mexican neighbors. Like, who are you even talking about?
Oh no, 100%. It's like to me that like especially like those I'm like, dude, right now if you're a brown dude and I'm like, right now is the time to get a white woman. You see how hard they're fighting for you. Like you see, I'm like, dude, now it's the time to get one.
You're like, oh, you like Mexicans, huh? Like,
Yeah, I memean,
prove
like,
it.
dude, I'm telling you, I was ahead of the curve. I locked down a white girl years before this,
Nice,
so I was ahead of the curve. I saw the noise, but yeah, that to me is hilarious. I'm like, we're going to a yoga studio to bring this up. I'm like, is there anything like more privileged than saying they're like, we're standing up to a yoga studio that used to be a taqueria that they gentrified into a yoga studio, So to me, I'm like, by the way, like brown people are not doing this for you. Don't ask, and I say this in my stand-up now, like white women do not ask Latinos to return the favor. Like if I start deporting white women, like we're gonna just worry about our quinceañera. We're not gonna go over there. So it's like that to me is the funniest thing where I'm like, you clearly don't live around it. We appreciate the sentiment that you're trying to do it, but it feels very like performative, it feels very performative.
Yeah, performative and clueless. And, like you'll see it. I mean, not that much here. Like one of the things that I like about living in Mexico is obviously that, people just aren't very political here, especially as compared. Like I'm from Vancouver. Like Vancouver is a super progressive, bougie city. Like everybody annoying lives in Vancouver.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's unfortunate because BC is super beautiful, but it's just been totally destroyed by politics, and I can't handle it anymore. And it's like very boring, and not fun. And I'm still interested in having a fun time, but like most people are not talking about politics ad nauseum over here where I live. But but like there's but I have a few white libtarded friends, and they still, despite living in Mexico, have that same assumption that the liberal California girls do, which is that all Mexicans share their politics, which are protective of Mexicans, so they must. Like they assume that all Mexicans hate Trump, that actually all Mexicans hate Americans in America, and that they're angry about these deportations and so on and so forth.
Well, that's like the one thing where like when you actually when you're in the country where like you see it in Mexico, it's like Mexico is very split, like left, right, just like the United States. Like, the big metropolitan cities like Mexico City and stuff, like it's a very left wing. Like that's why they were like very pro-feminist for like Sheinbaum winning, right?
Yeah.
And then, but like if you go to northern Mexico, like where my family's from, or like you go to like border towns, like they're actually much more strict. Like they're the ones dealing with like a lot of the cartel stuff. They're the ones dealing with a lot of like the blowback of like the migrant crisis. So like, Mexico clearly stated this, and it was kind of a moment where like a lot of people were like, oh, Mexicans they don't want Venezuelans staying in their towns either and everything. I'm like, everyone, when it boils down to it being in your backyard, immediately wants the fence put up, So it is one of those things where like the northern states of Mexico are more conservative because they deal with a lot of the problems that like the big metropolitan cities don't deal with. And if you look at like the national news media in Mexico, it's very left, right? It's only like independent journalists that are starting to expose it. And when Trump was like, my favorite part was like when Trump was talking about like sending the US military to clear out the cartels, like a lot of people were like, Americans, I saw American TikTok, they're like, oh, he wants to take on the cartels. And they're like defending it like it's a glorious thing. But you had Mexicans in Mexico would be like, oh, we would love it if Trump came here and just cleared out the cartels. And the president, who like they ask her for comment, she will not take a stance because she knows if she pisses off Trump, it's a huge problem. And if she pisses off the cartels, it's a huge problem. So she's literally just there as like a puppet. And it's so funny to see that. But a lot of my friends in Mexico and my cousins and stuff were like, dude, if they sent the military here, like that would be awesome. Like they respect power. Like Latinos love power moves, you know, and I don't think they understand that. Like getting Maduro, like popping in and like picking him up, like he was a hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars, like that just showed like they were all like salivating at. They're like, oh, cool. Like we love seeing the US coming in and clearing house, you know?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the president here, Claudia. How does her last name? Sheinbaum, is that right? Because I don't really understand how she got elected in Mexico. Like, she's such a liberal. Like, I should call her a progressive actually, because I don't think that.
Yeah, she's just like very left. Which, you know, I told you it's like the big cities and stuff. And like I said, Mexico is very left and right. They've had 2 left-wing presidents in a row. And this one is like, it had the allure of like first female. That the other running mate too was a woman. So it was like you had 2 women. Whoever would win would have been the first female president. So I think with Mexico, it's like it is more progressive than people give it credit for. Like I think they passed gay marriage before the US did, like as like a national law. But the one part where it's struggling is like economically with like the bottom tier of like poverty, right? So I think you're starting to see that kind of be the conversation of like more of like a social safety net and everything. But yeah, I mean, when crime is taking over and there's just rampant poverty, which leads to more crime, that's when you start people like kind of rebelling. And I think with this president Sheinbaum, that's what she really focused on, and that's what people respond to. It's like it's almost like the blue collar like Trump appeal and the Bernie appeal in the US, where it's like working class, you know, lower middle class, people who are just impoverished, looking for some sort of ladder to be put down so that they can start climbing themselves out, or some sort of safety net, you know? So yeah, I think with Mexico though, it's like they realize that if the cartels keep controlling anything, they're never going to get there. So I think the sheet is starting to be unveiled. Like they're kind of seeing, right? They've always criticized Mexican politics, right? They know that there are puppets put up by certain powerful organizations, but I think now they're starting to realize like if the cartels stay in power, like we're never going to get there. And I think you're starting to see like the actual PR turning on the cartels, because I think there was a certain point there was almost like a Robin Hood type of mentality from what I've seen, which is like, oh, they're stealing from the rich, kind of giving back to the poor. But now they're like, oh no, they're really going to just continue to do what they do, and they have no interest in helping the poor at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I sort of wondered if they got rid of the cartels. I don't know that that's possible, but I'm also not advocating getting rid of the cartels. I'm not anti-cartel, but I mean, it depends on where you live, of course. I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, careful what you're saying over there. Like,
no, I love the cartel.
Yeah,
I kind of do, to be honest. But
we're just it's like we're just talking about, you know, season 1 of Narcos, not anything else.
But I wondered if like getting rid of the cartel and sort of trying to like legitimize the economy more would actually ruin a lot of what is great about Mexico. I mean, the lawlessness and how things work. Again, it depends on where you are, because obviously in some places it's really not working, and in other places it does work.
Well, this is why I think the solution. Yeah, I think the solution is just to nationalize fentanyl, you know, and have everyone have a stake, you know, just give on everybody a little bit. Everyone kind of makes a piece of the pie. You know what I mean? It's like those progressive CEOs that like just split their salary to everyone in the company. That's what I think should happen. You know, it's like, why not nationalize the cartel? I think that's the best way to do it. Everyone feels like they're part of it.
Yeah, I like it.
Just give, right? Like every kid gets some fentanyl and an AK-47. I think that's just
Socialism, Mexico style.
Right. And by the way, like, and this is the one thing where, like, I always tell my friends, I'm like, you dude, anytime I book a vacation in Mexico, I always do it after a headline pops up where it's like, tourists killed in resort by cartel. And I'm like, dude, that's the best time to go book. It's so much more affordable and everything. And also just weeds out a lot of Canadians like yourself now. It also weeds out a lot of just excess at the beaches. And like, nothing helps get you a nice clear beach like a cartel shooting in Sayulita.
Well, yeah, we've not had any here, luckily. But also, luckily, Canadians don't understand that Mexico is a big country. So if there's a headline that says there was a shooting in Mexico, they just assume that all of Mexico is off limits. Like they don't differentiate between Cabo and Sayulita or like La Condesa in Mexico City. They're just like shooting in Mexico.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, there is still like a Wild West feel to Mexico. Like, people wonder, like, what's the Wild West feel like? I'm like, dude, just live in some border town in Mexico and you'll see what it's like. Like, it is literally the Wild West, you know, in some of these places like Nuevo Laredo or like Reynosa in Tamaulipas. Like, those are some places, man, where you're just like, you see military vehicles going down. I've heard gunshots like in the past, and you're just like, oh crap, like this is a place where, you know, Billy the Kid could have come out of, you know. It's like Deadwood. You know? It's amazing. Like, but yeah, I mean, it's like I think there's a certain charm to that. And I know people are gonna think I'm joking, but I'm like, I'm not joking. That's like a place.
Yeah, no, I get it. I like it. I like it too in a lot of ways. I mean, Sayulita is pretty gringa friendly.
Yeah. I mean, you're in a nice like expat cove
It's
is what they
safe,
call
yeah.
it. Yes, you're definitely fine.
Yeah, but there's still a certain level of like you have to be comfortable with chaos. You have to be comfortable with illegal shit. You have to know how to navigate things. Like you have to kind of understand how things work to live here, which not everybody does.
Have common sense, man. It's like I can tell like if you've been to New York, like your radar is on every time you're walking out on the street, walking down the subway. Like you're just constantly on. But I can always tell like when people aren't used to being in a big city, like they're just so like plugged into, you know, their phone and everything, and then they're shocked when like a homeless man like robs them or like approaches them, or they're shocked if like, you know, something goes down on a subway car and they just freeze like deer in the headlights. I'm like, no, you just gotta like be a little savvy. Like you gotta just have your radar on. And that's living, you know. Like if you're in a suburb, you just check out. You think everything is like easy for you. But in a big city or like going to Mexico, like just literally your head is on a swivel, you know. Just be ready and you'll be fine.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about Mexico culture from, I mean, white people living in places like America and Canada, particularly the progressives, I would say, you know, like the kinds of people who are apparently or like to think of themselves as very protective of the Browns. You know, What do you think that they are not getting?
I think that what they're not getting is so as far as like people who are like very like progressive and open liberal, I think the one thing that they're not getting is the fact that Mexicans like are cool with racism. Like they're fun. Like we like racist jokes, we like sexist jokes. Like the sense of humor, I would say, is like more you know, conservative, you know, and I think that's the one thing they don't get, you know, when you're being also too like Mexicans, like we still catcall, you know, we still love that.
I love it too.
We'll totally you know, sexualize a woman still, you know, as long as she is a woman, you know, we are totally cool with that. And I don't think they understand that. Like, I think they think that we're like kind of all like fearing, and they think that like Mexicans that are here illegally automatically means like they're immediately going to adopt like everything that progressives want. I'm like, no, like it's just really the immigration thing. But other than that, like you can keep everything else. Like we don't want a drag queen to read to our kids, you know, like we don't want we want really racist, sexist jokes. We want what else I would say? We want to go, like, church is awesome still, you know. This is where I'm being. I'm like, a lot of like the Republicans, like, you guys are losing too much, you know what I mean? Like, you guys are being too square about this. Like, open yourselves up, just add a little accordion music to your country music and we'll be fine, you know. But as far as the left-wing stuff, I think they forget all that stuff, you know. I think it's like they just don't know how to have fun at a certain point. And I think Mexicans, if they're having fun, it's good, like it's chill.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the I love a lot of things about Mexican, unfortunately, Mexican men. I but you know, like they're funny, they don't take themselves too seriously. And yeah, you're so right. And that is something that I think that most of these liberals don't realize, is that there's a lot of racism in Mexico, but there's a lot of racism in almost every single culture.
Everywhere. Yeah, ask an Irishman how he feels about the English. You know, it's like, and I think by the way, that's the one thing I do want to reiterate. Like, when it comes to like Latin cultures hating on themselves, like, it's not like a cell phone or an Uncle Tom shit. Like, I get so tired of hearing that. To me, it's almost like a Boston person and a New York person hating each other, right? Like there's a layer of love, but overtly there's natural hatred, right? And to me, like, when like Latin people criticize each other, like if you're a Latin person and you like, I hate Bad Bunny, they're like, oh, you know, you don't hate him because of he's another brown person. You hate him because it's like, yeah, I don't like the music. I think he's a little, you know, soft or whatever. But there's like an underlying of like love there. Like, I get it, you know. So that's the one thing I don't get, where like a lot of progressives, like if there's a Latin person that like does vote for Trump or something, like, you know, like my mom, right? There's still a layer of love there. It's not like they hate their own culture. And that's the one thing that I hear more on the left than I hear anything, where it's like, how could you support this? How could you support someone who wants to deport your own kind? You hate your own kind. I'm like, no, it's like, I love them, but at the same time, like, I'm willing to be honest with them, you know? So there is a layer of love. It's just, you don't let them off the hook, right? It's like, white Americans never face that if a white guy votes for Trump, no one ever says he hates his own kind. Just like when white people voted for Obama, did you ever hear another white person say, like, you hate your own kind, that's why you're voting for Obama because he's black? No, you know. So it's like, I think people need to understand that and get rid of that. Like, there's no such thing as like you hate your own kind anymore. Like, we're way past that. We're too many layers deep into American culture now. So like, if Latin people, I would say, have a little bit more tolerance for that. Because I'll tell you right now, after the last election and they saw how the demographics broke down of like who voted for Trump, and they saw that like of Latin men, it was like almost 50%. It was like 40 something percent. You had immediately people saying it's because they hate their own kind and they're, you know, they want to, they're still very sexist and homophobic and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but they don't hate their own kind. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
They are homophobic, but
homophobic in a fun way, right? Like, no one's getting hurt or anything. Like, we'll still do some blow with some gay people, which I love gay dudes. White lesbians are not fun though. Gay dudes are very fun. Gay people, like, they still have the balls to do coke in 2026, right? Like, if you go partying with a gay dude, they're like, want to do a line? You're like, what about fentanyl? They're like, all right, fag. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but white lesbians are anti-fun. Gay dudes are fun. 100%. Let's just leave it at that. All right. So
yeah, for sure. I've been watching your series Migrants on YouTube, and it's super funny. Why don't you tell us about the premise?
Right. So I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and the migrant crisis was happening. And I started to see the effects of what was happening in Brooklyn, and how a lot of people that I knew were reacting to it, and how how the city was reacting to it. And it was like a weird conundrum where we talked about like, I'm super progressive until it's in my backyard, right? And I know Brooklyn culture. I have, like I said, I'm in the comedy world, so I know exactly the kind of people who are involved. And when I started seeing the migrant crisis happening, I just started to see kind of like the different cultures colliding. And my brain immediately was like, oh, what if this was like a documentary? If somebody decided to make like a documentary about like the wokest Brooklyn people, which I love, and people who are just here from south of the border, which I love, right? Like just two cultures I love, just bundled together in a room and seeing how that goes. Like teaching a Venezuelan migrant about pronouns to me was like immediately hilarious. And it, to me, what it does, it just holds up a mirror to this whole kind of aspect of what is America and what separates us and what brings us together. And it's in a lens where like I'm always trying to lift up Latin culture because I love it so much. I love the comedy. I love the fun stuff that we bring to America. I'm like, dude, if you that's what I mean. I'm like, if you get rid of all the Latin people in America, it's kind of boring. I've been there, dude. You know what it's called? It's called England, and it's not as fun, dude. The English are boring, you know?
Canada.
Great beer and soccer, you know? But, dude, if you trust me, dude, if England had, if you replace the entire Muslim population with Mexicans, they would be like, fuck, this is the greatest country on earth, you know? So what I'm saying is, that is what I wanted to showcase and bring up. So I had a lot of friends that were like extremely talented Latin actors who are criminally underrepresented in like film and TV. And to me, I'm like, let's just create a series where we showcase these two cultures of Brooklyn and south of the border and just see how these people work through this quote unquote crisis and what they learn from each other and what they grow from each other. So we put out Migrants back in 2023. People loved it. It became a viral series. And now we're going to be reshooting and putting it out as a feature film for this year. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool.
So,
that's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of a love letter to Latin culture and New York culture and Brooklyn culture and just all the comedy in between that happens. So
yeah, I loved your character, Guicho, who shows up and is like, I'm here to hook up with gringas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that does happen, and El Guicho feels that way, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And he's not as charming as he thinks he is, you know, which happens a lot. You know, that's based off of a lot of people that I grew up with, you know. There's a whole thing where like if you talk to any older Latin dude, they all think there were lady killers, you know? And then when you like hear the actual stories, I'm like, that just sounds like you just were shut down so many times, you know? Or like if you talk to like their wives, right? Like they'll be like, yeah, well, yeah, he tried, but no women wanted him. That's why he stayed married to me, you know? Like there's like a certain sense of it. So it's almost like the way I like to equate it is like, it's kind of like old school Italians, right? Like they all think they're the suavest dude. They all think they're Tony Soprano. They all think, but when you hang around them, you like realize, I'm like, all right, you were just a plumber who would go to a strip club on the weekends, and that was it, you know. And you still came home to your wife,
pretty, but it didn't really.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that to me was the whole crux of it.
Yeah, I think that one of the best examples of the delusions of white liberals or the woke versus, you know, the reality of Latino culture is this attempt to impose Latinx on everyone, so that there's like a genderless term, so that we're not using Latino and Latina, God forbid.
Yeah, that was like one of the first videos I did that went viral, was making fun of the Latinx stuff. And this was like, I guess like 2018, 2019 when that started to pick up steam. But they tried hard for like 4 or 5 years to really make that a thing. And that was like one of those cell phones. So that's why I talk about, like, say what you want about like conservative Republicans, right? They are smart enough to like leave that shit alone, right? They're like, we're not trying to change Spanish. We just like don't want crazy immigration. Yeah, some of them hate Mexicans, but in my opinion, I'm like, you don't live around enough Mexicans to hate them. But when it comes to the left, is like they will overstep and just say like, hey, here we are. We're going to remove Latino and change it to Latinx because we don't want to genderfy certain people who are gender fluid. And you're like, that's a quick way to piss off a lot of Latinos. You know, there's one thing they're proud of, it's their culture. They're proud of their language. I get it. It's Spanish, but it's not really Spanish. We've masculinized Spanish, right? Like if you hear Spanish in Mexico, it's like, hey, ¿qué tal, cabrón? ¿Cómo estás, güey? ¿Cómo estás, pendejo? That doesn't sound like Spanish. Like, hey, ¿cómo estás? Like we've masculinized it. We've made it our own. People are like, you're a guy. It's a colonized language. I'm like, no, dude, you speak with a Mexican, you speak with a Spaniard. It's two different languages. All right. Yeah. It really is when you boil down to it. Just like we don't say thy and thee anymore in English, right? We turned it into a real language, right? But when it came to the Latinx thing, man, dude, did that like really resonate with so many Latinos. And that's what switched a lot of them to being like, holy crap, like this is going past the immigration thing. Remember I said, past the immigration thing, there's really nothing in common with the left, right? Or like the modern left, hyper left, right? Maybe left in certain aspects of like healthcare and stuff, yeah. But hyper left, and that's what the Latinx was. It was like a big, like hyper left move to like put their stamp and try to like change something within the culture. And dude, Latinos were not having it. And if there's one thing they're not having, they are not going to stop talking about it. It's just like the rebel nature of us, like the Pancho Villa in us. We're like, dude, we will literally fight against this and make fun of you and roast you and make big asses of ourselves just to try to get rid of this. And that's exactly what we did. So yeah, that was a great moment in showing people who are like hyper liberal, like, oh wow, like I guess they don't want to join us in this, like this moment, you know, and that's where the divide happened.
Yeah, I guess we're not all on the same team. Like, which, like, obviously you don't know because you don't hang around Mexicans. You're just assuming. I mean, this is a problem that progressives have in general. I just wrote about this actually, which is that they have this assumption that everybody is on the same side as them. And it's weird because people who, you know, like a white Canadian or American will be around me and say something really negative about Trump or something about ICE or something about the protests. Like the amount of times like a white chick has said to me lately in the past couple of weeks, like, oh, well, you know, because of all the things that are happening in America, and expecting me to be like, oh, I know. And they have no idea what I think about all this. And I usually don't tell them because I don't actually really enjoy talking about politics and social situations. I don't want to get into it with somebody who has like been so propagandized that it would take a very long time to get through about anything. But, you know, I'll say things like, I'm like, okay, well, I voted for Trump. But, you know, it doesn't even occur to them that anybody would think differently than them, which is weird because conservatives don't operate like that.
No, I mean, like I said, conservatives, like, they have their own gripes, and some of the shit is really annoying, like the halftime show stuff.
Oh, I'm so annoyed. Like, you guys sound like such nerds. Like, shut up.
I know, such dorks about it.
I didn't understand what he was saying. I'm like,
100% too. And also like the whole aspect of like speak English. And I'm like, dude, it'd be one thing if half the United States didn't have cities in Spanish to begin with, right? But I'm like, and then they're like, I don't like English, or like, don't speak Spanish to me. I'm like, bro, just say you've never had a Latina moan eye poppy in your ear. Okay. Just say that.
No kidding. You would like it.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. Oh, I love Spanish now. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So just say that, right? So to me, it's like, I hate it when Republicans, like, they literally die on molehills, you know what I mean? On some of the stupidest things. But progressives are the same way, like hyper left people, like the Latinx thing. They were going to try to shove that down our throats, blew up in their faces. Also progressives, when it comes to like, yeah, taking the humor out of something, like not laughing at themselves. And that's why, to me, I'm like, when I go on stage as a comic, like, I like to bring to light that stuff that's like, I can see from my own culture and my perspective, but showing them that, they don't realize it. Like, I will tell people, like, I'm like, who here hates Trump? And they're like, woo. I'm like, who here loves immigrants? Woo. You know, like, I'll say this in LA, and then I'll say, like, my mom is an immigrant and voted for Trump. Boo. And I'm like, oh, I thought you said you love those things, you know, like, you know. So to me, I'm like, that's why I could never jump on that train of like hating all like Republican conservatives, because like, my mom voted for Trump, so I love my mom. I literally would die for her. So I kind of see it through a different lens, man. And I think for a lot of people, like, it's just hard for them to get past like that whole thing of like, in like left-wing friends that I know. I have friends that are like, I won't talk to my dad because he voted for Trump. I'm like, go talk to your freaking dad, man. Like, he loves you. He probably sacrificed for you, and just, you're gonna just throw that away just because of how he voted. You know. And also, he's right. Like, you shouldn't have gone to college for, you know, lesbian studies. Like, you should have studied something else. That's why he's mad at you.
That was a waste of time and money.
Right, exactly. So it's like, I just see it as a whole paradigm where, yeah, I think each side dies on molehills that they shouldn't, and each side champions things that they're a little bit hypocritical on. But at the end of the day, man, like, I get people in my DMs. I get people who are like, I'm a lifelong Republican and I love Mexican culture. I'm heartbroken on how the ICE thing is happening. Like, I get people messaging me, and I get people who are very left wing. They're like, you know, I'm progressive and everything, but I love the jokes about your Trump supporting Mexican mom. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's like, that to me is like, that's where I want to be. I want to call balls and strikes on both sides and make fun of the ridiculousness that happens. That's the kind of comedians I grew up on, was like making fun of just like the stupidity and the absurdity from the political back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that bothers me about not, you know, I don't consider myself right wing at all. I don't really consider myself anything. I was actually a socialist for most of my life until maybe 10 years ago or something like that. And then I just didn't vote for many years. This was the first time I voted in an American election, and the first time I was like really excited. I was like, I'm going to vote in this election. And I just, you know, I stopped voting in Canada for many years also because I didn't support any of the political parties. But,
right,
you know, what bothers me about the Republicans on the right is that they sort of like, they won the cool card back from the left. Well, back, I don't think they ever had it before, but they sort of won it from the left in a lot of ways, because the left just became so over serious and couldn't take a joke and couldn't meme. And then, you know, they won't stop doing this nerdy shit where they're like, rap music and the lyrics and weed and like Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. And it's like, you guys, like, a lot of people really like like, I like Bad Bunny. It's I don't know.
London, and they were playing Bad Bunny in London.
Yeah, like, you guys, and like you said, I mean, Latino culture is a really big part of America. It's, you know, go to Miami, but I mean, go anywhere. Like, there's so many.
I'm like, I get it. Like, I get it. There's a natural inclination that anything that's like not like quote unquote like true like Americana, they don't like. But I'm like, dude, Latin culture, like half of the US was part of Mexico. I get it. There was a war. You guys won. Take it. You left most of the cities in Spanish. So now you saying you don't want Spanish. But I'm like, if those two cultures, man, like Latin culture is cool, right? Mm-hmm. American culture is cool. Like, they both embrace each other's cultures and love it, right? Like if you see there was videos going viral of Kanye Yee playing in Mexico City, and these videos were going viral because it was like 80,000 Mexicans and they knew the words to Flashing Lights, like all of they even did Through the Wire. They were like rapping in English and everything. I'm like, that's the cool part, right? Like that's what's so cool about music and art, where I'm like, dude, it can fuse together. And even in the cities too, man. Like there was like a famous viral meme, right? Where it was like it was from an Indian news channel where they took a poll of Americans and they had shown that who would you rather have, legal Indians in America or illegal Mexicans? And it was like 80% prefer illegal Mexicans versus legal Indians. And I was like, that was my favorite part, because I'm like, at the end of the day, guys, you guys don't hate Mexicans that much. You don't hate Latin culture that much. A lot of you are just doing it because Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, all of these like right-wing talking points, which I'm like, guys, we get it. Not everyone's going to be the classic Christian conservative dad. Like, open yourselves up a little bit more. I mean, you did it for Nicki Minaj, right? Yeah. Like, you open your doors for her. Why not open your doors for, you know, more Mexican culture and more Spanish stuff? Like I'm saying, dude, like, don't close yourself off and everything's got to be like Christian conservative white. I get it. That's like you want to do it, but I'm like, that's more being shoved down your throats than you think. Like, open yourself up. Do you really hate it? No, you don't. Right? Like, you don't.
The Nicki Minaj thing was funny because I remember not so long ago, all these people complaining about wet ass pussy, and then all of a sudden, that's all forgotten. It's fine. It's
right. I'm like, and I'm like, guys, I mean, you can't be that easily bought, right? And again, it's like the right-wing influencers that are like, guys, don't take yourselves too serious, dude. Don't take this halftime show. Like, you see like Megyn Kelly, like, just losing it. I'm like, dude, just trust me. If you go to one salsa bar and, you know, a Latin dude grinds on you, I trust me, Megan, you'll feel better, you know, like, let it go, girl. Like, it's like, you can't be that uptight at your age, you know? Yeah. So to me, I'm like, guys, you don't hate it that much. By the way, too, like, I've traveled to Mexico and I've stayed at resorts. All of the Americans, none of them speak Spanish. They all want the staff, everyone, to speak English. I mean, even the cab driver.
And serve them like kind of English food. Like, it's barely, I hate those places, the all-inclusive and the resorts. I'm like, why would you even come to Mexico? Like, the only Mexicans that you're interacting with are the staff, and you want them to not act Mexican. And the food you're eating is not really Mexican food. You can't even see Mexico. Like, this, none of this looks like Mexico.
No. So that to me is, I'm like, people were saying, they're like, we speak English in America. I'm like, you speak Spanish too, dude. Stop it. But when you travel to Mexico, speak Spanish then. And you don't. Like, the American tourists don't. I've been there. Like, I've been in the resorts. They've asked me for towels. I'm like, bro, do I look like I fucking work here? You know, like, I get it. It's like, you're quote unquote pissed off about this, but in reality, you don't care when it boils down to it. Like, you know, just be lucky that it's Latin culture that you're bordering. Like, I think that's a cool thing. Stop letting that go, you know?
Yeah. So where do you live in Texas?
I don't live in Texas.
Oh, you don't live in Texas. Okay.
I live in Los Angeles.
That. You live in LA. Okay. You're from Texas.
My family's all from Texas, from El Paso to San Antonio. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. So I grew up with like, an affinity for cowboy culture. And this is what I mean. I'm like, dude, my dad, he wanted to be a cowboy more than anything, an American cowboy. Like, my dad actually learned English with a Texas draw. That's how much he loved America. Like, he taught himself English. He always would play like George Strait, country music growing up. Yes, he loved his Mexican ranchera, mariachi, Tejano music when he would get drunk and start singing that. But dude, he was blasting country music just as hard as he was, Tigres del Norte and Juan Gabriel. So to me, I'm like, guys, there are those people, just embrace it. But that's why I grew up with an affinity for both. Like, I love the great things about American culture, but I love having that cross-cultural reference. And to me, this is the one thing where like I see with like certain Republicans, I'm like, yes, there's a pride in your heritage. Stop pretending like there isn't. Like nobody bats an eye when Italian dudes literally tattoo the Italian flag on their arm, right? Nobody bats an eye when Italian dudes want to be Tony Soprano and be like, oh yeah, the old country Sicily. Or when Conor McGregor was fighting, I saw so many white friends of mine be like, dude, I'm Irish, man. Irish heritage, my Irish pride, Irish Mickey Ward, you know, like fighters and stuff. I'm like, it's okay when those cultures showcase their heritage, right? But why are you guys getting all mad about the Latin people doing the same thing? I'm like, you guys all do it. Like, I know a lot of white friends that are like, as soon as, you know, when McGregor was fighting, they're Irish, you know? Yeah. So I'm like, just embrace it. Like, it's okay. Like, America is a bit of a melting pot. Like, stop forgetting about that. So when it's like a Cinco de Mayo or like Mexican Independence Day and you see people waving Mexican flags, bro, when it's St. Patty's Day and they have the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City and everyone's got an Irish flag, I'm like, it's the same thing, guys. Like, stop letting these right-wing influencers and stuff like put that in your head. Like, you don't care that much about it, is what I'm trying to say. We're all proud of our heritages, you know?
Yeah, like, don't be insulted or offended or angry about the Mexican flag in America. First of all, the Mexican flag is awesome. I love it. But, you know, like, it is. It's so cool. I got my nails done with Mexican flags on Mexican Independence Day. all the boys loved it.
There you go.
Yeah, you're right. Like, that's a good point, is that it doesn't seem to bother them when it's certain other cultures like Irish and Italian. And then it reads to me as a form of right-wing virtue signaling.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like, that's what I mean. I'm like, this whole like cultural divide and all that shit, or I'm like, I think it's mostly just manufactured. And I trust me, like I said, I have friends that are like real Republican stuff. And when it boils down to it, they don't care that much. Like, you ask them in conversation, like, they really don't care that much, right? Would you rather it have a Mexican influence in your local town as far as culture, or, you know, what other culture would you want, right?
Like, it's Muslims, like
yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, at least, like I said, at least there's Catholic and they have that background and everything. And it's just kind of a tell-all moment. I'm like, and if you guys start nitpicking this shit, dude, you're gonna lose it, man. Like, you're gonna turn into the nanny state again. And that's what's like starting to happen. Like, don't take yourself too serious on the cultural stuff. Take yourself serious when it comes to like the voting and stuff, right? Because the midterms are coming up, and I'm like, let's see if it sticks, right? I feel like there's been a lot of self-damage done, you know. But to me, I'm like, don't get lost in that noise.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know why I thought, like, I knew that you had moved to LA when you were 19 or something like that, and I don't know why I thought you were back in Texas for some reason. But so have you been in LA this whole time since you were 19 years old?
So you
were in Brooklyn for a bit.
Yeah, so I lived in New York for the past 6 years, and then I moved to Los Angeles after that. But I spend time in Texas a lot, so it's pretty normal for me to be there. I've been there for months at a time and everything. I have my family's out there in Texas, so I go there a lot. I do comedy there all the time. So yeah, I mean, LA is my home base, but I do kind of bounce around a little bit, especially with the stand-up schedule and all that.
How do you find the comedy scene in LA? How do you like it there?
I like it, man. I was saying, like, I like doing comedy in blue cities a lot, because I think it just keeps you honest, and you got to be kind of on your P's and Q's with stand-up. I've done stand-up in Austin and everything, and I think sometimes some comedy, I'm saying, like, the great comics are always, they know how to walk the line, but I've seen where, like, certain comics, they're basically just playing to their audience. And by the way, that happens a lot on progressive cities too. Like, there's like big clapter moments. To me, I'm like, I want to be able to both, like, when I do jokes, I want to both offend and make people laugh. And like, I love it doing that in kind of, New York or LA. Like that to me is like, those are the two cities where you can really kind of build material that can do that. Right. So I love doing stand up in LA. Again, there's a great cultural aspect because LA is heavily influenced by Latin culture. So if I want to kind of get into more of like the minutia of like certain Latin culture, I can do references and people understand them that I know I can't do in like New York, for example, or like I can't do, in Portland, Oregon, right? So I can do that, but generally when I build like my material, I try to make it as like I want everyone to kind of understand it. And if you can build a really strong joke that isn't like a local joke in LA, it tends to work all over the country.
I believe you just started a podcast. Is that correct?
Yes. It's called the LOLtino podcast. It's brought to you by my brand LOLtino. So it's a new podcast that we've launched. We're going to be launching more and more episodes soon. But yeah, basically what it is just we talk about kind of like Latin culture, and we talk about what it's kind of means to be like a new American. And at the end of the day, we don't take ourselves serious. We make fun of everything, left, right, anything. And my whole thing is like, what I love about Latin culture is everything is jokes to us. Everyone has jokes. If you go to Mexico, right? Tienes un chiste. Do you have a joke? Everyone has one ready. Everyone has a joke ready to go, right? And that's the one thing I love. So like when you get a cab driver in Mexico, just ask them. I'll tell you this right now. Tienes un chiste, right? Do you have a joke? They got it ready. And then that's what I love is like we have the best sense of humor I'm saying the world, right?
So.
I don't know what it is. Maybe, old school kind of like Yiddish, Jewish have great jokes too, but like those cultures, I want this podcast to be like we're kind of taking like Latin subculture and making it mainstream. That's what I want to do. So we talk about everything and we kind of break everything down. And really just, like I said, it's all just going for jokes and humor. So yeah, you guys can check it out. It's a LOLtino podcast. It's on YouTube. Our first couple episodes just dropped. And then on Instagram, we have our own Instagram, which is LOLtinos. And it's tied into our streetwear brand as well. So if you guys want to pick up some merch and stuff too, it's always fun to support.
Awesome. Do you ever do comedy in Mexico? It's so funny because it's like, you're right. Like Mexicans have such a great sense of humor, but there's not like a comedy scene that I'm aware of in any case.
There is a bit in Mexico City. Like there's stand-up. Stand-up kind of is like 20 years behind in Mexico, but there are they've really sped it up. Like, yeah, there are some big stand-up comedians in Mexico. They'll even come here and they'll sell out theaters here. In big Latin markets. So yeah, there is a big push. I mean, there's Netflix Spanish comedy specials. There's some great old school comedians. But yeah, I mean, it is growing. And yeah, I've been asked to go to Mexico to do comedy. And that's something I plan to do probably in the next year or so. So definitely be going there and being able to get on stage there. It seems like the best of both worlds for me.
Sweet. I hope I can come see you or something.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And that's, to me, it's like, that's the one kind of like, not to sound gay, but the universal language is humor. So
totally. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you let everyone know where else they can find you online? I know you've told us about the podcast and the podcast.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, go to type in LOLtino LOLtino on YouTube and it'll pop right up. Subscribe, guys. We have a couple episodes launched, which is nice. And then my personal Instagram is BTD Jokes. So you guys can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that, all your socials. Check out the LOLtino podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And no, thank you so much for having me on. It was such a blast.
Yeah, it was so great to talk with you. I'm so glad we could connect. I've been really enjoying your Instagram page and your YouTube channel. So
cool. And I didn't know you were a gringa in Mexico, man.
I know, funny, eh?
You're kicking ass, dude. I love it. You're a citizen of the world. I love that. And that's what I mean. I'm like, a lot of Mexicans too, you guys don't take yourself too serious. Don't be like, oh, there's too many Americans moving here and all that. I'm like, again, it's that hypocrisy too, guys. If you want to
And like,
take it,
it's
you
like
gotta
you
take it.
guys like it too. Come on.
Oh, of course. I'm sure. I'm sure you're not struggling out there. Is what
No,
I'm
I'm
saying.
doing fine.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of Carlos and Oscars
Redhead
that
in
are like,
Mexico.
yeah, I'm sure you got your own Latin roster out there. I like it. There's a reason why gringos like you move out there. So
I love Mexicans. I really do. I really love Mexicans a lot. And it's like, I'm always so pissed when people act like, they conflate politics with racism and they think, oh, you voted for Trump and you live in Mexico. Like the amount of Canadians who comment on like my Facebook page.
again,
like, how can
yes,
you say this when you live in Mexico? I'm like, I love Mexicans. I voted for Trump for
there are
practical
Mexicans that love
reasons.
Trump
Like,
too.
yes, totally, tons. It's so
That's
silly.
what I'm like. That. By the way, that is the left wing worldview that like I think their bubble gets shattered when they actually know like cultural truths. Like they're like, how could you? And I'm like, dude, some of my biggest Trump supporting friends are Muslims and Orthodox Jews. You know, Muslims, Orthodox Jews, and hardcore Mexicans. Like, like the amount of people. Actually, none of my friends that like Trump are white. I'll tell you that right now.
Totally. Yeah, seriously.
That's the truth. So I think that's the one thing where I'm like, you liberal people, dude, you gotta expand yourself. If you're surprised that a brown person voted for Trump, you don't know brown people, bro. You don't.
Yeah. And you don't really know white people either, because I think
No,
like
you don't. No,
almost all of not all of them, but most of the white people I know hate Trump. So it's like you guys really have to start paying attention to reality and not just what you've invented inside your head or what you're seeing on your algorithm or whatever.
100%.
Anyway, I'll let you go. Thank you so much. This was so fun. I'm so glad that you took the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it. I will probably get this up sometime next week and we'll tag you, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you so much. Love to do it again.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.